What unsettled Eliza wasn't a sound, it was the absence of it. Her 14th floor apartment in Chicago was a constant symphony of noise. Sirens wailed down Michigan Avenue, the wind howled off the lake, and most of all, there was Buster. Her nearly 65-pound golden retriever was pure chaos. His claws clicked on the hardwood. He groaned in his sleep, and his tail thumped against table legs like an out-of-control metronome. But tonight, the apartment was swallowed by a heavy, suffocating silence. The rain outside wasn't just background noise anymore. It felt like thousands of tiny fingers tapping, demanding to get in. Eliza snapped her laptop shut. The blue light vanished, plunging the room into darkness, broken only by the sickly orange glow of a street lamp. "Buster," she whispered, her voice tiny, swallowed by the quiet "no flagging," no panting, nothing. She found him not in his bed, but in the farthest corner of the living room, where the shadows were thickest. He was sitting, but not a normal dog sit. He was upright, stiff, completely motionless, like a porcelain statue. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at a blank stretch of wall, as if watching a movie only he could see. Buster had been her anchor through some incredibly stressful times. He was a gift from someone she had trusted, meant to be a source of comfort. But lately, things had changed. His behavior grew stranger each day. He no longer barked at the door. Instead, he just watched her. He watched her with an unnerving intensity, those once gentle brown eyes turning sharp, analytical. It sent shivers down her spine. One Tuesday night, she was working late, trying to finish a project. She felt it again, that prickling alarm on the back of her neck, the feeling of eyes drilling into her. She spun around in her chair. Buster was standing in the doorway of her bedroom, just looking. He didn't move. She tried to break the tension. "Come here, sweetie." She clapped her hands. "Bring the ball." The dog didn't budge. He just tilted his head, a curious, almost academic gesture. She grabbed his favorite tennis ball and tossed it. It bounced across the floor, landing right at his feet. Buster glanced down at the ball. Then Vera slowly lifted his head and looked right back at her. He left the ball exactly where it was. That night, at 3:17 a.m., the apartment was freezing. She woke up, not from a nightmare, but to a sound. A click, sharp, small, and rhythmic. Click, click, click. It was coming from the living room. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Barefoot, she crept down the hallway, each step cautious, like a dancer on broken glass. The only light came from her laptop screen, a screen she was absolutely certain she had closed. It was open. Peeking from around the corner, she saw it. Buster was sitting on her office chair, his front paws placed neatly on the keyboard. He wasn't typing. He was nudging the mouse with his nose, sending the cursor darting chaotically across the screen. Her chat messages from earlier blinked back at her. Eliza gasped. Buster jumped, yelping in what sounded like genuine panic. He toppled from the chair and scrambled across the floor. For a fleeting moment, he was just a scared, normal dog again. He bolted into the corner, whining, his tail tucked tightly between his legs. Eliza clutched her chest, panting, her mind racing. She tried to convince herself she was seeing things, that she dreamed it. She was overworked, The dog must have just accidentally nudged the mouse. Yes, that made sense. It had to. She locked him in the living room, barred her bedroom door with a chair, and tried to force herself to calm down. But sleep never came. The fragile peace lasted until twilight the next day. She was in the kitchen cooking dinner, the rhythmic chop of her knife on the cutting board accompanied by soft jazz from a small speaker. Buster was lying on the kitchen floor. Suddenly, he stood up and walked to his water bowl. But he didn't drink. He just stared into his own reflection in the still water. Then, he started making a low, guttural sound, almost a whisper, a string of repeated syllables. Arc. 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 Eliza dropped the knife. It clattered loudly on the floor. The dog whipped his head around. His lips didn't curl. He didn't bare his teeth. He just stared at her. The strange sound stopped instantly. The kitchen sank back into silence, with only the lonely notes of a saxophone lingering in the air. She ran to her bedroom, slammed the door, and shoved the heavy nightstand against it. This wasn't her imagination. She had heard it. Her body trembling, she curled up on her bed, listening. Outside the door, there was no scratching, no whining, just that endless, oppressive silence. The apartment grew frigid again, and a strange, faint, unsettling scent hung in the air. She sat there, shivering, until the first gray streaks of dawn sliced through her blinds. Silence. Then, as the sun began to rise, Buster whimpered a normal, pitiful sound for a dog wanting to be let out. She was unraveling. This was stress, guilt, loneliness. She needed help. Shaking, she grabbed her phone and dialed Cook County Animal Rescue. I can't keep him right now, she sobbed into the phone. They were understanding and promised someone would arrive within the hour. When the doorbell rang, a wave of relief washed over her. A tall man in a rescue uniform stood at the door, holding a cage and a catch pole. Miss Davies, you called about an unusual dog. Yes, she breathed, stepping aside. He's in there. Be careful. The handler stepped inside. Buster! Come on, buddy, he called in a calm, professional voice. To her astonishment, Buster stood up, wagged his tail, and licked the man's hand. The handler rubbed behind the dog's ears. Mom, he said, turning to her. This dog seems perfectly friendly. A little nervous, maybe, but not aggressive. Elisa froze. The relief vanished, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. Buster looked past the handler, his eyes locking back onto hers. Slowly, deliberately, he lifted his head and blinked once. A slow, dry blink that was entirely undog-like. I think, Eliza stammered, trying to find her voice. As the handler turned his back to clip the leash onto Buster's collar, the dog, still staring directly at her, opened his mouth. No bark came out, no growl, just a whispering rush of air that formed 3 distinct syllables. Not donne, jit, it. The handler heard nothing. Are you okay, ma'am? He asked, his face etched with concern. Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. She couldn't let Buster go, not now. She had no idea what he would do if he left, but she was terrified to find out. But if he stayed, the game wasn't over. He just wanted her to know. He was still there. He was still playing. No, she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. I've changed my mind. The man, looking confused but professional, simply nodded, detached the leash, and left. Eliza slammed the door shut. The apartment sank back into that familiar, heavy silence. Buster sat at the far end of the hall, just watching her. His tail thumped once, a heavy, solid sound against the wooden floor. Thump, as if he was waiting.